Well, this is a draft of 22.
Whose keys? That was.
Yeah, let's see.
There's trouble right there.
Yeah, sitting on the back pew and not saying a word.
There it is. Just like a good Baptist.
Yeah.
We're on live, Mitch. We're on live.
We always start a few minutes early just in case there's any technical problems.
Just gonna let you know. I'm not planning on acting up. You behave.
I was working from home today. My wife was sick. Go pick up medicine and all that good stuff.
Did you read this, Tracy?
What, this proposal?
Try this.
Oh, no, I flipped through it. It's been quite a while.
Okay.
I think I've got one of the few houses in Freeze that get actual high-speed internet. I get, I think, 50 gigabytes.
Man,
Wow.
I don't know how.
you didn't knock off.
Yeah, I'm on Comcast somehow.
Hold on, I got. I'm reading a book right now. It's called Apocalypse Never.
Larry,
I'm reading a book right now called Apocalypse Never. I'll give it to you. And it is, the author's name is Michael Shalom. It is has an interesting background. It's kind of George Orwell. Thinker, funded guy. He worked for him directly for a lot of years. Changed his whole philosophy. He studied for 5 years. And kind of levels of, a lot of information about why he's changed his thoughts and how he's changed his thoughts. What's sustainable. He's a big fan of nuclear. Really thinks nuclear. Out of California. I think he convinced Newsom not to get rid of another plant. They all think they have a choice. They're failures. They're failures of the grid.
Yeah.
They have money for the original place to get rid of it was all right? And now they can't realize they have to keep it all without energy reduces now. Really risky. He certainly detailed some of the things that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
The solar and wind, the problem with solar and wind, the storage issue is a real big issue. So anyway, I'll read through this.
Indisposable. Yeah.
Indisposable.
Yeah, you can keep that. I got you.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Frankly's running just a little bit late, so we can stall it in Bainbridge, Joe.
What am I? Do you?
Yeah.
You don't have it?
Yeah. Jordan, you doing all right?
Staying busy. We have those, we ended up having 4 babies this year. 3 boys and 1 little girl. So, one of them, I've been meaning to show, Deanna. She always tells me, she's like, every time we talk about it, she describes what the perfect body form would be. And this little boy, he's like stocky, square. I mean, he looks like he's 3 months ahead of everybody else. So he came out of the black one we got off of you guys. I think at the time it was Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
But she only had a single this year. I guess because he was so big. But she had single,
One time by John.
and then
Right,
the red one we got, she didn't have any.
You may have forgotten.
Then our 2 dairies. Our older dairy had twins. Then our yearling dairy, she got a year and a half. She had a single.
I'll call.
Worked all hours Saturday,
Yeah, I know.
trained fluids and good shots.
This is like-
Are you guys taking anything to drink?
Yeah, we're gonna take our breeder.
Mickey?
Yeah.
You got somebody replacing?
Not right now. I think we're gonna let those young guys that we got rest when they have our time for it.
How old is Mickey now? He's gotta be what, like 6?
I think 2019 picked him up.
Or right about 6?
See if I text John.
Mitch is just talking to him, I think.
Okay.
I've not heard anything from him today.
I got a text from Brandon. See if
Okay.
he can replace him.
He's in route, he's forgotten.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's hard to pull everybody away from the sunshine.
I know. Yeah, can't blame you.
I wouldn't like it. You wouldn't use it. I wouldn't like it. Good stuff. We would appreciate it.
See this guy, get this guy. This gravy and all kinds of stuff. This is, biscuit. Well, boy, I got to have some. we call John?
Got his own, filled his own.
Brandon's on there.
We're gonna make, we just go ahead and kick into it, but since it's probably better way for everybody. So we have it in the mix.
Bradley, do an ATA? Very good. I don't know how they do things in Auburn, but we're short on time.
That's how they do it in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
They don't brag.
Yeah.
Probably. I'll put how like.
Hey, Mike, do that little thing. Now we got military.
Always late to the party. All works down and show up. Put your uniform on.
Maybe Peter Larry knows a good joke. I'll let be.
Already given Lisa all my jokes. She'll report on them.
I put how late, you put hour.
Oh, wow.
I put series. This will be a slow series because
Let me call him.
Just sit still. I'm sorry.
That's Bradley. All students can be.
Yeah.
that's windstorm.
Is this what you're?
Yeah. No, well, I said still.
Oh, okay. What about John? We know that.
He said he was en route.
So that's from Summerfield.
He didn't tell me where he's at. He just said I'm en route.
Politician.
Uh-uh.
Straight answer.
You get shot, don't you?
I'm in the general AOL.
I'll take it away. Give you a pencil.
All right, we'll wait till 15 after the meeting here. We'll go ahead and kick it off.
Who?
You?
No, I don't think I'm sure.
No. When I see the picture, I take it out. But I didn't do very well.
Well, he said, I would never put my GPA on anything unless the board started. Because it was that bad. Yeah.
Right there, I see.
If I never listened to it.
He does it after.
Well, you almost lost me before. I didn't even know what was doing.
This Friday. It's probably a long time.
Yeah, I would read it.
I'm living in the water.
I mean, I went over what I'm doing. Yeah, yeah, I really, I mean, overall.
It's all kicking my face.
Really. Then I transferred. My son lives in where he got his associate's his senior year. Christopher recorded something there small. Yeah, that's 2 years. You didn't have to worry about that. It's a really good program.
Yeah, Virginia has that, guaranteed admission.
My bar is on
Once you graduate,
the.
they're guaranteed to crazy stuff.
But if like UVA, they say that, and then they make you take their more stuff off. So he was, because he was good at UVA, he would get transplanted out.
I like it.
He wrote music songs too.
I guess it's an awful small stuff.
Nice teaching. I think WCC is one of those bright spots. 606. Does a lot of good for You got to make an announcement. You got advertisement?
We have two supervisors that are running a little bit late, so anybody that's watching us via video, let you know what's going on. We're gonna go ahead and start about 15 after, whether they've showed or not. Thank you.
We're just chatting. Everybody at home listening. Yeah, but good time to go get your popcorn. Stay tuned.
All my projects. Sounds like the accounting technical.
Right. Carry me on.
Most of it, she does shows and stuff. It's mostly
Like cold.
she's
Cold.
she
Really?
her products to
What do you like about it? What do you like about it? How do you know what you like about it?
Your facial expressions.
She hears what I'm listening to.
You know, it's same class. Y'all in the same class.
graduated this last year.
My daughter graduated. 13 and one.
Serious for a second. She started flying. I know. She heard it leave. My name, and she went down here quickly.
Somebody's got to keep you grounded.
So, I've heard that.
Because he only had to go 2 years. Yeah, we had two that got them grown up now.
Did your youngest son go to college?
He's from the I'm ready for the electrician track.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, and they're all, I mean, they all kind of take care of their education. Just trying to
Oh.
basics.
I got that side pretty good.
That gives me a headache to drink at class.
Okay, I've got 15 after 3. Again, we were scheduled to start our budget workshop of Grayson County Board of Supervisors at 3 p.m., but we had a couple of supervisors that were a little late, so we was trying to give them some time to get here. But we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order as I'll call up everybody. And would Mr. Smith, would you mind leading us in the invocation and then pledge allegiance, please?
Father, thank you for all the blessings of life that you bestow upon us each day. Thank you for this nice day in Grayson County that we can come and do the county's business. Thank you for our board of supervisors and staff members and different ones in the community that are involved. And we pray, Lord, that you would just go with us through this meeting. And may we do it according to your will, for it's in your name we pray. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have a fairly short agenda, but at this point, the chair would ask for approval of the agenda. So moved. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Chair also aye. Briefings, Mr. Jordan Stidham, Opportunity Appalachia Grant awarded to the county. And it's a day. Good to have you with us.
So if you recall, a while back, we had talked about the neighborhood school project and how we wanted to revisit that. But from the approach of going to the community and seeing, what the community wanted to have there and using that as a part of building the best use of the facility. And so a little bit after that, Deb and I, mostly Deb, like 98% Deb, got this grant through ARC, the Appalachian Regional Commission. It's called Opportunity Appalachia. And the focus of it was to do preliminary feasibility and community engagement on the highest and best use of the Haywood School and the surrounding land there. And so Grayson was awarded this grant funding, and working with Deb and the lady through Opportunity Appalachia, I put together a team, and we submitted what's called an RFQ, a request for qualification, to them because it is government funds. And so we had to be approved as contractors to be able to service the grant. Once we were approved for the RFQ, they had to place it out for bid due to the funding source. So we submitted our bid on it and were selected as the winning bid for it. And as you'll see in front of you, this kind of breaks down the process, the team, the schedule, the tasks, and things like that. You'll see that our team is made up of myself as the project manager and the overall planning, communication, community engagement. We contracted as well with Hill Studio. So they have a team of designers and architects that you will see some examples of their work on the cover sheet. We've worked with them over the years with developing multifamily properties, and they're just a phenomenal group of architects. And then within their contracted part, we're also bringing on an engineering team called Hurt and Profit. I think they've done some work for the county over the years. And so we'll have them, and then we're bringing in a couple of people from Hope Incorporated, the company I work for full time. The biggest part of that is going to be the grant side of things. My boss has been in the grant writing, donation, contribution, state funding realm for around about 30 years. So he knows all the connections, all the funding sources and things. So he'll be a good, valuable addition to this. And so our plan is to start with kind of a basic starting point of an idea, just to get the ball rolling. And we want to take that starting point and we're going to look at the school. We're going to, check the infrastructure, look at what things have to be done structurally to prolong the life of the school as we go into the remodel and development stage of that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our starting point and have a kind of 30,000 foot design, just an aerial view. That way the community can see and get a vision of what it could potentially be. Then the goal is to have a community meeting about it and get the feedback from the members of Baywood and say, this is your school, your community. What do you want to see here? Here's our starting point, and that's all that is, a starting point. So we'll take their feedback, and then we would come to the county and say, here's our starting point, here's the community's feedback, what's your feedback as the board? And so then we would take that, we would adjust the design and get a draft design, go back to the community, say, hey, here's what you said, here's what the county said, here's what we've come up with. What do you like? What do you not like? Again, get their feedback. Then again, come to you guys and say, here's the draft, here's community feedback. What's your feedback? What's your questions, your concerns, things of that nature. And then we would put together a final report of the highest and best use of the Baywood School and the surrounding land. And that report would include the architectural design, the visuals, like actual 3D renderings from like an aerial view so you can see what the buildings would look like, how the flow would be, all that good stuff. And then we would be looking at essentially how each component would break down. Would it be leased? Would it be retained? Who would be responsible for the funding, the expenses, things like that. And then we would look at what are potential grant avenues to help fund this project. Because I know one of the biggest concerns was that we want to see where we can pull in outside funding to help pay for it through the county. So grants, state, and federal funds. And so along with that report will come a list of, here are these grants, it's through this organization, here's your contact, here's the due date, here are the kind of the parameters of the grant. And then along with that would also come our departmental contacts within Virginia Housing, DHCD, and all the other organizations that we've worked with over the years on developments. And so that would be what the final report that comes to you guys would be. And so from there, that should tell you, here are the concerns that the engineers had, things of that nature. And so just so you guys know where our starting point is, we're thinking the downstairs of the school would be partially like a community wellness kind of health education center. So like imagine like a small area where you'd have like some basic cardio machines. You could teach like the rescue squad could do like CPR and first aid classes there. You could do like diabetes management. People could teach yoga, Pilates. So like a small community wellness center. And then on the back side of that, so that would be where all the gym, the stage, cafeteria currently are. On the back side of that, office, library, those rooms would be like a daycare, some kind of childcare facility to address that need in the community. And then the upstairs would be some sort of small business and nonprofit incubator, because each classroom could be converted fairly easily into an office. And so the idea is that if you're starting a small business, if you own a small business or a nonprofit that serves Grayson County, you could rent a reduced office space up there. And ideally, that would involve some kind of partnership with like Crossroads or something of that nature to help foster small business growth in Grayson County. And then that long strip of land that goes from the school to Old Baywood Road, long field, we're envisioning like a picnic shelter and some kind of recreational field for the community kids to play in, like rec football, soccer, walking track around that, the old tennis court converted to a basketball court, again, for the kids in the community to have something to do there. Playground would stay for the childcare facility, because I believe that's a licensing requirement in the state of Virginia. And then the back side of the property, we would look to develop into some kind of housing. Whether that would be townhouses, possibly single-family homes to be sold, depending on what the community feedback is on that. So that's kind of the path that we're looking at and the starting point that we're hoping to get to. And so I guess from there, just to kick it off, would there be any upfront concerns or questions that you all would like to make sure that we address from the beginning?
Have you seen the plans that was already started on?
I've not. I think Mitch was telling me about it, but I've not seen those yet. I had the architect actually ask me today if I could get a hold of any existing plans that you all may have already done, blueprints or anything like that.
Okay, we've got those.
I guess my question is, my understanding of the grant we got was to kind of look at what was possible there, right? Now, we had an original concept that Ken just mentioned. You just mentioned a concept. But isn't that the purpose of the feasibility study, is to kind of come up with this? Or are the people, which I guess is Hill Studio, are they looking for some sort of framework to, I guess what I'm getting at is, are we guiding them to a solution that we already know we want, if we're painting a concept to them? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. I think what he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we just have to be careful if we're looking for community input, for the community to kind of drive the thought and then bring it back to the board, and the board to have some type of input into that. We don't want to lead them to an ultimate decision. We want to, kind of, I guess we kind of frame it for them a little bit and then gather it. That's what, but it sounds like that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, it is, because I think one of the things that we ran into last time is, we had a concept, we didn't sit down with the community and get the community buy-in, and that was one of the issues. So the concept you laid out is similar to the concept we had before, but we don't want to make the same mistakes that we did the last time. I guess is my observation.
Yes. So the point of this whole kind of study that we're doing is we're trying to basically restart it just from scratch. So the idea, like I said, I haven't seen the plans of what was prior there. I know that there was some talk of some kind of health clinic, maybe. That's really all that I know about that school.
Health, childcare, education, tech training.
Gotcha. Yeah, so our plan is this basis or starting point is just kind of what came to my mind as to what I thought would serve the community well.
Well, you're not necessarily going to transmit that or turn it to the people doing the feasibility study.
Right, so, well, we're all one team, right? So the way the process is gonna work is we have that beginning point of here's what we think, just based on like growing up in Baywood and all that.
Right.
Here's what I think would serve the community solely as a starting base, just to go to the community and say, hey, here's our starting point. What do you like? What do you not like? What would you rather have here? What do you think is a good use of this? It's basically giving us a starting place. And like, let's say the community says, oh no, we don't want a small business incubator upstairs. Okay, well, what do you want? We want this. So then we take out the incubator. We put in what they want. We bring it to you guys and say, okay, the community wanted this upstairs, this downstairs. So that's what they came up with. And then we come to you and say, given that idea, what are your concerns? What are your questions? And then we take it to the draft, render the drawings of what the community put back to us and said, here's what we want. And then we go back to them and say, okay, here are the drawings. Do you like it? What do you want to change? What do you want to add, take away, repeat?
Yeah,
we got the final product.
And the proposal, or the idea that you've just presented, so any thought on what local tax dollars would look like? Or are you talking about all grants, federal, state?
Well, so the goal obviously would be to fund it as much as we possibly could with grants and stuff. But I won't be able to get that mix until I know what's gonna go in there, or what the idea is gonna go in there, because there are certain grants that can go to childcare. There are certain grants that can go to housing, but wouldn't go to childcare. Ones that could go to health initiatives, but not childcare. So like the mix of what the community wants is gonna determine the potential grants. So then at that point, when we have our list of, based on what components are gonna be there, here's all the potential grant sources. And so then each grant generally has like an allowable, right? So like I just wrote a grant today actually where, they tell you, you can get 900,000. So I'm gonna plug in 900 here, but we won't be able to do that until we know what the community wants to see in the building.
Are you talking about something, a separate grant you just applied for, or is something to this project?
Oh, no, that grant was something for my work.
Different,
Yeah, I
okay.
just use that as an example.
So you're starting basically next week, and you think you're gonna report out, and when you say report by September 5th, that's the final decision by us on move forward to the next phase? Is that what you're thinking, or is that just to get the feasibility study done so then we can move to the next part?
Yeah, so basically in September, what I'll do is I'll give you guys a final package, and then I'll present that to the board. So based on all of our research, here's what we think the community wants to go in there. You all had concerns of X, Y, Z. Here's what the engineers said about that. We'll basically put forth, here's your roadmap, if this is what you end up wanting to do. And then from there, it'll be completely up to the county as to whether they want to do it or not. And this will all be basically from the county. We're looking for your feedback, your questions, we want you to be involved in it, just like we want the county to be involved. The parties involved all have a say, because the actual funding is through ARC. So like we'll invoice ARC, all the compliance and all of that is done by ARC.
Just so I'm straight, so you think the total estimate for feasibility study is $70K?
Yeah, I think our actual budget submitted was 65.
And does that cover the grant? That's where we got 65K.
You said you're gonna gather up the community. Does that mean Haywood, or does that mean Grayson County? Does that mean?
Well, my primary focus would be Haywood, because it is, it's in their community, it's the heart of their community. My goal is to make Haywood School like a hub there. But, anyone in the county would be welcome to come, just because they elected you all to represent them. This is a grant the county got, it would be open to everyone. But my primary focus would be on really trying to push the Haywood community to represent themselves. And we're shooting to actually have, if it'll work, to actually have the meetings in the Haywood school, in the gymnasium. I think the power is still on there, correct?
I'm not sure, based on what we were told last year, that it's safe to have a meeting.
We'd have to, just cover off, stay in the gym, and then we've already talked about the possibility of maybe putting forward jumping up or something. For that,
Yeah, the idea would be to keep it specifically to just the gym, right?
we'd have to cover it all.
I guess in light of Kenneth's question about, are you asking the whole county thing, but at the end of the day, if this has an impact on taxes, it affects the whole county. So even though we may do a project specific to one area, it impacts the whole county. So that's why it's important, I guess, to have the input from the whole county. So the feasibility study is the grant that we voted on. It was in January, February. So you're asking for that that grant money? Is that what this ask was?
No, there's no ask.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no ask here. I just, from the get-go, as a part of this project, the goal is that everybody is involved. We just want everybody to know what's going on the whole time, the board, the community. Like, if we're gonna do this project, I think that it's paramount that everybody be on the same page. And that's the thing. There's no ask of the county. It's already been funded. You guys don't have to pay it. You guys won't be billed or nothing. We are subcontracted from ARC to do this to benefit the county. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's involved from the get-go.
And this is a breakdown of how you're spending the grant money. Is that correct?
And you'll see it's color coded based on the contracted company. And you'll see that you won't see Hurt and Profit listed in there as the engineers. You'll see that there's a breakdown under Hill Studios section for engineering. Hill Studio subcontracted the engineering to Hurt and Profit. So the money will go to Hill Studio and then they will pay Hurt and Profit.
Mr. Chairman. We did, George already alluded to, we want everybody to be on the same page, but one of our things about when Jordan came and sat down, we wanted to make sure that the board didn't hear of Baywood community meetings going on and y'all, hey, what's this? So this is basically an information meeting for everyone, as he said, everybody's on the same page. You hear a community meeting happening in Baywood, now you'll know what it is.
Well, I like that approach.
I'm just wondering if it would have been more beneficial to do it at a board meeting since it's not, has no budget impact. And therefore, doing it at a board, this presentation at a board meeting would, serve the purpose of getting more information out to the public.
The only reason we didn't, that's a very good point. The only reason we didn't is because he's needing to get started. That would have been another week delay. And this meeting is being, live streamed. So it'll be out there hopefully to the public and all, but it was only just for another week delay. And Mr. Stidham was asked he won't get started. So we said, okay, maybe we'll brief the board on this. It'll be open to the public. That was
Certainly the idea is we can communicate this as widely as possible, which we always talk about communication, one of the things. I would love for our citizens to know that they can come by anytime and look at the proposal, and so we can see how things are funded. If we had the opportunity to hang this on the website, at some point in time, that would be ideal. For people just punch in there, although not everybody can have the internet, but George's done a lot of work on this. If George's not available next week, I can probably brief this out during the supervisor meeting, just kind of give a heads up. Hey, here's where we're at. It's a grant funding, blah, 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 and just knock out the high level talking points on it. And this is how we're moving forward. No cost to the county. It is something we're looking at for all the citizens. How we gather that information, I think, is what we're all talking about. It's kind of a key factor here to decide how to shape this. We can't be anything. We can't build a water park or, whatever. It's got to be, we have to give some parameters to it, but how we shape this and how we talk about how to hear the people's voices that are unheard and maybe the silent majority. I don't know exactly how to get out that yet, but that's what we're trying to get after and understand where we're headed. So if we can do something better, communicate this.
Well, I appreciate having it today so we can do it in this setting. It's a lot less formal.
Not opposed to it. I'm happy to hear it.
So you've got the timeline laid out. So when you come, following this timeline, September 5th, you'll come to the board and present, here's what we found.
Yep.
And at that point, will you be able to distinguish what local funds will have to be matched to this versus what's grant?
We would have potential grant, state and federal funding. That would all be contingent upon the county applying for it, getting awarded it, because there's a whole swath of funds that you can pull, like CDBG and vibrant communities, especially. And the big thing behind this one, and this is what we talked about early on, is the more components that we're hitting to benefit the community, the more you're going to qualify. So if you've got housing, childcare, health, small businesses, like the more check boxes you're getting, the more you're opening up. And then by combining multiple avenues, you start to get into more of the bigger grants, like the CDBGs and the vibrant communities and things like that, that are more towards, I'm not giving you this money for childcare. I'm giving you this money for the infrastructure because you're doing so many things. So for example, Withville, they pulled CDBG to run water and sewer to that new Blue Star factory. Like that pays for your infrastructure. And then you add on other grants on top of that. Some are specific to the project, some are overall. And so to answer your question, at that point in time, we would have all of those composed. It says, here's your potential bucket of money. But as a part of the next step, if the county moved forward with it, it would require applying to the grants. But we would have, here's where you apply, here's who you contact, here's their deadlines. Like we would have all that road mapped out if the county chose to do it.
And I know every grant is different, and you've got experience doing this with different type of organizations. But if the county is applying for the grant, it's a general question. So again, back to my opening statement that all grants are different. But if the county's applying, is there an expectation of some sort of county match as part of that grant application?
For the most part, most of the grants that I'm aware of do not require a match. I think
Even though we're applying,
do I-
even though we're the applicant.
Correct. Yeah. So specifically in like housing and things like that, there's no match required. I know when you get into federal grants, a lot of times there is a match required, not every time, but when you go to that federal level, like example, HUD money flows through to DHCD.
Right.
If I apply to DHCD, even though I'm pulling that federal money, I'm not required to put a match forward. But if I went directly to USDA, as let's say I work for the farmer's market, and I went directly to them and applied for a grant, they may require a match that way. So as you said, each one is different, but for the most part, that I've seen, they don't require matches. And generally, if there is a match required, you can then go to non-governmental groups like ARC and things like that to request some type of funding to put into matches.
So what if you come back in September and you say, well, there's not a viable source of water on this property? Our hands are tied. What if that scenario played out?
So, this is one thing that assembling this team that we put together, we mentioned specifically to Hurt Profit was that the concern is the water source on the property. And so one thing that we talked about was locating what the closest public tie-in was, which is in Galax. And so then what would that cost to pull that up there? And something like that would be something you would go through CDBG to request. Because, like I said, in Woodville, that's exactly what they use it for, is that infrastructure, water and sewer. And when you get into that type of thing, your grant becomes, hey, this water and sewer is going to come to this project, but along the way, it's going to benefit, 58 grocery, or I think now it's the Gobble Stop, all those apartments. And then by having water sewer tie-ins along the way, we now open up the opportunity for townhome developments and housing, because when you're building multifamily, it's a lot easier to build multifamily when you have water sewer tie-ins. So if you come to that point where you have to write that grant, then we look at, how do we make that specific grant stronger? And so it could potentially come down to, hey, this well is kaput, it's not safe to do. But then we look at, okay, if it's not safe to do, what can we do? Do we drill another well? Do we run water and sewer? If we run water and sewer, let's go for CDBG, see if they'll pay for it.
And that's, CDBG scenario is only if you determine the well, or there can't be a new well.
And CDBG, if you got awarded, it could be used for other things too. Like it's not solely water and sewer, like let's say Aaron probably said, oh yeah, that well's fine, we just need to treat it, we'll put in a UV filter system or whatever it would be, I'm not a builder, but, and that was fine. Then we would still look to go to CDBG for some other infrastructure type. So that just, if it turns out that the well's fine, that doesn't rule out that pot of money. That's just one of the potential uses of that pot of money.
DHCD, or not DHCD, the health department, drinking water, was allowing the school system to use the well, and they loaned them some chlorinators and that made it okay when they were operating there.
I know there are systems now that it's an internal filtration system that essentially sanitizes the water as it comes in, like with using UV light. So like if you buy a house, and granted it's a completely different scale of a well, but you buy a house now with a well that's shot, you can afford to drill a new well, you can put in those UV systems that will treat it as it comes in, and then it'll pass inspections and everything. So there's a lot of possibilities with Baywood, and that's why we're bringing in their company, because that's their bread and butter, they're the expert there.
Well, I'm pretty impressed with the amount of time it looks like you put into this presentation and the detail.
Certainly, Chris, and yep,
If you're able to pull this off, if it works out, and it doesn't impact local taxes, I think it would be huge.
thanks, Jordan. Your car is yours. Your car. What car is the number on? I don't. See if it's in here. I think Mike has my email. What I'll do is I'll email everybody, just so you all have my contact. We're going through a rebranding where I work. So it's bad and then printing new cards.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's got his number here. It's on the top of his resume. Kind of, yeah. He sends about page 4 or something like that. It's got his email address.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Next, we'll move on to budget work session, then the general operation budget, ready, Mr. Larry Ball.
Thank you. I can be very flexible here, so I'm trying to recently make a few things here, your revenue projections, whatever. I think the main thing, we didn't want to go through what we went through last year. Is that?
It's always a good statement. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go through that.
And sort of to remember what we were doing. My phone didn't start to buzz. Last year, we were hit with the increase in car values, skyrocketed. And we left everything alone in terms of levies. And then sent the bills out, and then we decided to do a rebate back, and the folks that hadn't paid was a 28.5% reduction. The ones that had paid got a 28.5% refund on those vehicles that qualified. So, and it ended up, people, was it September 2nd? And the bills were due, or
Yeah.
instead of the June 5th, we extended times because a new law was put in place. That didn't start till July 1, we were able to do the rebate. So I think the main thing we wanted to do this year was to get it all done in one time and not have to do anything else. Bradley, you're
So I apologize, Larry, I'm so sorry.
I tell you, you've missed a total of about a minute of what I've been saying, so don't feel bad.
We're the only one.
So, overall, the used car prices are coming back down. Okay, and as a reminder, we go on what the values are in January 1. So January 1, 2023 values were down from what they were January 1, 2022. And they had shot way up from 21 to 22, and now they're coming back down. They may not be down as much as they went up, but they are coming back down. Okay? And any questions along the way, feel free.
What's when you say they're coming down, so where we at from the high last year, 1 January?
Some of them, last year they were saying like an average of going up about 20%. They're down somewhere between 10 and 15% now.
What they are right now.
When we look at what our values are, but you gotta remember, we got different vehicles this year. But ours, from the value we had last year to the value this year, is down about 12%. But like I said, that's not all the same vehicles because we're all the county traded cars and bought new and everything like that. And Lisa, I don't know if you have you got a projection on personal property? And I think you've got personal property all looped in
It is
together.
all together,
Is
yes,
that
sir.
correct?
It is all together.
And
Let's keep taking this and slide it just right here.
Slide.
That's what I'm saying. There you
Here?
go. Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so just a review for me.
Yes, sir.
You've got personal property tax current highlighted.
Yes.
The highlighted portion on the next screen, which says 0 and then 4 million, whatever, is that corresponding to the personal property?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I will keep me on track.
No, you gotta keep it up.
If you highlight this top line, that's their top line. Right? Is that what you're trying to highlight?
No. Current.
Current.
Larry, can you see?
do you have a question?
No, can you see that?
Yeah.
So the projection is 4.036 mil on the personal property for 23.
That's for FY 23. For 24 is in yellow.
You're at 3633.
3633 is the projection.
And that is a 10% reduction from last year's values.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I need to update that, Mr. Cole?
And, well, I had 3.6, so we were right together.
Okay.
And that was assuming did you assume a collection rate 95, 96%? So I think we're sort of essentially right there. And that would be basically leaving everything alone, because we've set the 225 for personal property has been set, and leaving it alone and with the lower values on vehicles.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. Now, last year, we didn't change the 2.25.
We did
gave
not.
a refund, correct?
Correct. And one of the questions that's gonna come up, and you can talk about the rate, the levy and everything like that, but what's the bill? What's the final bill? And it's gonna be hard. Last year when we had that big jump, everybody's went up. Okay, and now we've got them coming back down. So some people, if you keep this year's values at the 225, you're gonna see some people paying about what they did last year. You're gonna see some paying less than they did last year. There's probably gonna be some that's gonna be paying more than they did last year. And it's too much of an individual. How did your car value or your truck value go compared to, how did yours go compared to mine? For example, y'all sort of know what I drive, and mine with this scenario goes down $10 than it did last year. And when I say last year's numbers, that's counting the rebate back now. That's what it is.
So your vehicle minus the rebate this year is gonna be $10 less than that.
This year would be $10 less than 22. My Cash's pickup, not to call any names, but looks like it might be up about $15. You know, I did pick out some of sort of
You got shelter.
The higher value ones may be different. I mean, here's a 22 Chevy Silverado. Last year was valued at $67,000. Value is down to $59,000. I mean, that's coming back down. Here's a 2018 GMC Yukon, and in 21 the value was 42,000. Excuse me. 42,000, it jumped to 53,000, it's back down now to 37,000. That was sort of an extreme one. You know, so if that one, you know, that one's gonna be, by keeping these the same, that one's paying like $40 less this year. But some of them fell more than others. You know, you gotta remember when you're talking about overall, I said it fell like 12%. That means some of them was less than that, some of them was more than that. You're looking at the overall picture.
Was there kind of an average refurb that we were giving back?
We gave back a 28.5%. So, you know, it's based on what to everybody. Now, did some people get back? I don't want to say did some people get back too much, but maybe more than they should have, and some not as much, probably, because you're not looking at 10 individuals sitting around the room. You're looking at 16,000 vehicles.
And that's probably County Blue Book.
It's what used to be called NADA. It's been bought out by JD Power. But yeah,
So it
it's
wasn't you or the Board of Supervisors of Grayson County that set the price of that either.
absolutely not.
That's why.
And JD Power, which NADA was National Automotive Dealers Association, and it was bought out by JD Power a couple of years ago. And that is essentially what all the counties and cities in Virginia use as a used car pricing guide. That is recognized.
Well, I thought it was you.
And we been trying to, you know. And what we do, you can get different kind of values from that. You can get a retail value, a wholesale value, and what we use is a loan value, a clean loan value, which is the lowest of those three, of a retail or wholesale, which is technically supposed to be the value you can get when you go to a bank to borrow money on it if you were purchasing.
Is that normal compared to other counties?
Yeah, most counties usually go a lower one. Yeah, but some don't do the retail.
So for this year, instead of if we were looking at last year's, because we know that was an exceptional year with the major increase, what if we compared to the year before? Would that give us a better, more accurate idea as far as
Well, you know, the values went way up and now they've come down, and at least I don't know if you got what we had the year before that in terms
I
of
do, it's in this column here.
budget time.
Because what I'm getting at, they went way up and they came a little bit back down. So
It sounds
there's
like
a difference.
It sounds like we're 10 to 12% still above the
And it
2021.
could be.
That's in that top line there that's bold all the way across. Just personal property tax, that's everything combined with penalties and interest as well. But you'll see there that it's
So-
still a 9% decrease from last year. $700,000 increase from the previous year.
You may have to go kindergarten mode. You said, can you repeat what you just said?
This column here is FY '22 actual. This is FY '23 budget.
Okay.
This is FY '24 that we're working on in the yellow.
So the decrease is 9.12 from last year.
From last year. But it's still an increase over what was actually collected in FY '22. Here, see? About 700,000.
Because basically, these are sort of rough too. We had about 4.2 million last year, and we gave back, or the credit back was about 980,000. That left at 3.2.
So you'd have to take that off of that number. That's what the budget gave back, 900,000.
Off of that, that's where you get about 3.2. And sort of if we're leaving stuff alone, we're sitting about 3.8 million right now. Collecting around 3.6.
Which would be an 8% increase roughly from 2 years ago.
What was it, a little higher than that?
So roughly 8% increase from 2 years ago.
About a 15%.
15 from the 2 years ago, okay.
I mean, not somewhere around.
3.1, 10%, 300, and then 550. Yeah.
So I guess the question is for us, you're just giving us the numbers, so what are we gonna do with those numbers? Are we gonna keep it? Or are we
And,
gonna?
and sort of what Lisa's got up right now is sort of what you've got. If
As it
everything
stands.
stays the same, and if everything stays the same, are we on the right same page?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so are we locking into these numbers now, those values? Or you got time before you gotta get everything to the treasurer's office, so we don't end up in the same debacle?
Well, and that's one of the things, you know, we need to, when we walk out of here today, is what we want to do. People are afraid to speak, but, make sure I'm saying this right. He needs all his stuff by next week. He said the middle of April, and you know, it's getting, on the fourth, so. And in about a week,
Yeah.
he needs his stuff so that he can get it to the printers and everything to have the bills, mailed out May 1st, basically. They're due June 5th, and that way they get him on board. Is what we've always.
And that
done.
includes $25 per car fee, right?
The vehicle license fee is on the personal property bills. So we're talking about mailing out personal property bills. Vehicle license fee is on the personal property bills.
So if we did anything with the vehicle license fee, we would need to do that. You need to walk out of here probably knowing that. then.
We probably would. Different.
Yes, sir.
Just if there was a trigger that we would pull to change that number, what would be the preferred? Obviously, last year was not the preferred trigger to pull with the rebate. But if,
Well,
say we wanted to, instead of a 15% increase from 2022, we wanted to get to like an 8% increase from 2022, what, would you mess with the 2.25 or?
I think so.
That would be the cleanest.
The cleanest. Let me,
And how often has that been played with? The 2.25 for personal?
we were at 175 for several years, and
2017.
I was gonna say 6 maybe years ago, went to $1.75.
When we did the 5-year levy increase or levy plan, and we went, first year we went straight to 25, I think, and then the real estate taxes, we had a graduated increase. I have it about right, Lisa.
It's not changed since then.
So we haven't, we played with it one time, you know, technically, and that was 2017, 2018.
If I can ask one more question, typically the change in value from one year to the next year is 15% a pretty big swing.
Well, we'd always been used to them depreciating downward. And then with everything from COVID to supply chain issues, new car chips to everything, it made them go up. A lot of time, like in the old days, they may depreciate 10% a year or so.
If you went from 225 to 220, I don't know if you can play around with it, but just based on the idea that if the goal is say 8%, like Brian threw out there, what does that equate to? And I don't know if your machine can do that.
No, but Larry.
I think mine could. All right. And I did sort of anticipate that. Lisa, you were at 3.8, right?
3.6 collected.
But 3.8 before. Your 3.6 was like 95%.
Yes, the 3.6 is 95%.
So if we were to talk about before, not taking percent, I was at 3.8. That gets you down about 3.7 or so.
3.7.
So instead of the 15% we're sitting at right now, if you try to drop it back to 8% difference between 2024 and 2022, you're looking at a revenue of 3.3 instead of 3.76 or something like that. And then what does that equate to? Is that 220 levy on
That's according to Larry. Yes.
220? That's
That
what
is at
220.
20.
That's what 220 gets you.
2.5. 2.5. 3.
Say what?
3.
No. Say that again. Can't be.
Changing the rate to 2.2 should get us somewhere around 3.3. Right?
Two long inclusive versus 2.2, 25, 2.
Okay. What is your 100% collect, your bill rate, Larry, at 220? At 220.
I thought he said 3.7.
Yeah, 3.7, I think.
3.7 times 95%. 3.5.
Collection rate.
Collection.
Rate. I got it, I'm sorry. I was going to talk about.
Okay, so now, yeah, we'll be through 500,000, is what you're saying.
So if we change,
So that's 150K difference that we're talking about.
Is your math the same, sir?
Or, I think so. One thing to remember on Lisa's line of personal property. You are including in personal property, the cars. But also thrown in there as machinery and tool,
Yes, sir.
merchant's capital,
Yes, sir. There's one more.
business equipment, stuff like that. And for example, the machinery and tools has a different levy than the 225.
Right.
Merchant's capital, they do too. And, I mean, we're looking at the total personal property number, but the things that messed it up was just the cars.
Yeah, the other ones don't screw the numbers up that big.
Right. Right.
When I look at the different categories on personal property, the one that's $6 and some cents, is that, I don't know if that's,
Merchant's capital.
yeah, that one strikes me as high. I don't know if it is as we compare to other,
Okay, there's a little asterisk there that you need to make sure.
yeah,
It's only on 10%.
didn't have my reading glasses.
It may not, but it is. It's only on 10% value.
So 10% of whatever they have is really what they're paying, $6.
And merchant's capital is inventory.
Right, that's right.
Remember, so you got a retail something, and this is items on the shelf. Okay, they report $100,000 of inventory. We're only taking 10% of that, so it's 10%.
So 10,000 times point
That's
6.
6.7, yeah. And that was been in place here for years.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
No, every time you see it, you think, well, God, that's outrageous. It's really not.
Well, that's why, I guess the bigger question was, how's it compare to your surrounding?
Other places, they may just say ours is 67 cents.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay.
And it's 100% of them.
Yeah, I got you.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
Do you have the breakdown of the merchant, those things are not in this?
No, they're collected all to the same revenue.
Is the $25 fee in this figure?
No, it's separate.
What have you got for me, Lisa? Because I may have to remember. Yeah, that's all right. And this is January 1st values. And we download from DMV on everything that's according to DMV is in Grayson County. Okay. Now, you can't start that on January 2nd because DMV has to take some time to get all theirs. So we did good to sort of get that by the end of January. And then there's a lot of, working with what we get, because we get a lot that's with zero values, we get a lot that's in other jurisdictions, and everything is a lot of that, and then it's sent off to JD Power and back, and we actually just got these values back last week.
Yeah, okay, so your timeline was, you got them in last week.
Yeah.
You need some next week.
The time, exactly. In the old days too, they were done in the fall. So we had chance to work all summer on these things, but it's a short window that once we can get going, and then that was one of the consequences of moving it back to June 5th from a December day.
What's the consequences if we tie, our fiscal year is 1 June to, whatever. July to the end of.
Right.
What if you snap the line at 1 July instead of 1 January? What's magical about 1 January? Other than, what I'm wondering is if
Come back.
we've wound up in another time crunch here from when you got the information to when Pete needs the information, which is the bind we found ourselves in last year. And so I'm wondering if from a future effort, if we change when we snap the line on vehicle values.
That's a code
So
thing.
the code
The code
directs on 1
says
January.
that tax day is January 1. Yeah, the year that you're gonna be taxed.
So change the code. That's the agreement.
Let me see if I got did you find that message?
I did, it's $333,500, and that is based on collection rates annualized.
335.
333. 333,500.
Because with what we've got right now, but as I said, it takes a little bit more to manipulate these. I'm sort of like at 415,000.
Okay, then that's
But at the same
just
time,
goes,
that's not a collective
not a
rate.
collection rate.
Right.
This is just based on the previous 12 months collection rate.
Right.
And I got 415, 330 right now.
That's 100%.
But that fee was tied to the decal that, you know, there was at some point, I think, some purpose for that fee. But right now, it's just, we're just collecting it's just another revenue source, but not really targeted at anything specifically, right?
Not
I
at
mean,
the moment, to my
right.
knowledge.
So, you know, purely from a bookkeeping standpoint, I mean, you know, again, we gotta have the revenue, or make some adjustments on the expense side at the end of the day, but, you know, if you go to 230 on the vehicle, on the personal property, for example, and do away with this vehicle, this $25 arbitrary tax, you're still about 150K short from what we're gathering right now, but we simplify things a little bit, at least from where I sit on why are we paying this and I'm also paying that sort of thing, you know what I mean? So, but you gotta have the revenue, or at least from a planning standpoint, make up the revenue somewhere.
Yes.
So if you go back, and so, you know, right now we're basing the personal property on 220. If you bump it to 230, but eliminate the $25 tax, what does that do? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. If you don't change it, just leave it at 225 and there's your 11%.
But you're still,
You just dropped your revenue to 11%, your personal property tax just went down 11%, and you did away with that. If you go back and change it to 220, leave it at 225 and a month for that, just do away with the vehicle tax, there's your 11% that we were trying to figure out through picking numbers.
I'm not sure that number's right there, 333.
well, that was based on 220. She changed.
I'm saying right here, 333.
Oh, that,
I'm not sure that's right. What I heard is it should be 390 plus if we take your number times 95% collection.
There also is an implication getting, I mean, there's a reason that was put there, but what are the implications of doing away with it?
I think the original intent, according to the old timers years ago, that was put in the sticker fee to purchase a school bus. I don't know if that's an old wives' tale, but that's the story.
I think that's true. It started out being $5 and it was told that it would be used to purchase school buses. And I think they separated it out and told that for new buses. And they did it a while and then it just sort of got put into the general fund and it wasn't earmarked for school buses. Does that sound, you heard that term?
I've heard that, but yeah.
This goes back a long time. And, but then it was the decal, that you actually had the sticker, on the window. And then so many years ago, a lot of people, and a lot of counties started going away from using the actual decal. People would fuss about putting it on the windshields and stuff. It's hard to get off. And we joined in, like a lot of counties did, on doing away with the decal, but not the money. So then the vehicle license fee was more. No decal with the money. And as John said, start with, it's just another source of revenue.
But the other thing, I think, when we did away with the decal, when Kelly was the treasurer, there was a trigger that allowed us, this had to do with reclaiming or people not, going after folks that, I may have this mixed up, so y'all tell me. But the bottom line was there was a link also to the DMV. So by changing it to a vehicle license fee, there was some connection to the DMV that allowed us to then tell the DMV to not renew the driver's licenses or something until they pay their taxes.
I think we discussed that last year, and it was when they go to get their license plates, if they've not paid the personal property, you can't get, there's a stop on it.
But is it tied specifically to that vehicle, or is it personal property in general?
Well, it's tied to the vehicle, but it's not related to the decal or the license fee.
It's just, is it personal property then? So if, for example, where I'm going is if we just said,
Automobile just tied to a DMV number for that,
It's cars and trucks.
yeah, cars and trucks.
so if they don't pay the personal property for cars and trucks,
Treasurer's office can
they can't renew their license. Okay. So then that fee, whether you call it a fee or whatever, that's not, there's no, if we did away with it, other than we got to worry about the revenue side, we got to make adjustments. There's no implication other than just revenue.
That wouldn't change your DMV
No,
stops.
wouldn't change your stuff.
That's what I was asking.
And that's called a DMV stop, which just means that you cannot go to DMV and do anything until you take care of where that bill. And then it's $50 fee on
Yeah.
top of that too. But that's the incentive to get people to pay on time.
Lisa, is there any way with this thing, you could completely keep it at 2.25 and take the license fee out and see what that number looks like?
Because Lisa, that's a separate category, right?
Yes, it is.
So just zero.
So zero this out.
It's a different category, but it still reflects in the overall number, correct?
Sorry, I'm not used to this keyboard. You'll have to bear with me. I did that, this is how.
I'm
much it
sorry,
affects
just the
budget.
personal property revenue.
Just the personal property revenue?
But that shows overall what you were just talking about, though, because that
This
one was
number
like
should be-
six.
Back to where it was, that should be, oh, I'm sorry, this number. Should go back to, what was, you had it originally at 4.1, I think.
No, this is what I
That looks
have.
right, 3.6.
I'm sorry, the top number was. You get collected, can you have the original top number at
This is my original top number.
3.8?
Yes,
So all you did is take the license fee out.
yes.
You
all
not put it
And you
back.
put it
I
back
changed-
in at the rate of 2.2.
You didn't.
Okay, I changed the personal property rate back to 2.25. Put that in as my original number, and I took out the vehicle license fee.
So we lost 300,000 too.
Really?
Because you had 335, in there, right?
I had 3.6. 333, I had 333 in there, yes,
Yeah, so you just took out 333,000.
I did, yes,
But we added back that
That's it.
5 cent
yes.
vehicle.
No.
And that's why I was thinking if you eliminate it to keep the number kind of where we were, if you went to 230, then it gets your revenue back to where it was, not necessarily, but it means an increase in personal property.
Yeah. Something else. Because that, the top line was went from 69, if he's saying the number should be, cancel each other out, that's not true.
But
Well,
I
that-
went to 2.25, not to
Not 230.
2.3.
If you go to 230, that'll pay it.
And I'm just saying, right now, all we did was the only thing we've changed right now is the vehicle license fee went away.
Right.
Which increased
Did you
our,
just break down the, when you went to, originally change it, didn't you take it from 225 to 220?
I did,
But
but
you took it back.
I took it back to, based on personal property at $2.25. That's here. And then, do you want me to put it back?
It just seems to me that you got the vehicle license fee plus the rate at which we tax everything. Seems like we could make it a whole lot simpler if we just had one widget that we work with every year to change that number. I know last year was disastrous and it got late and we had to figure out how we were going. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest drives. Purchase property.
So what is the difference? I'm if we keep it at 225, what's the negative?
What's the name?
Yeah,
Okay, the overall effect to this particular budget.
right.
If we take away the personal, or the vehicle fee, we take away the vehicle fee, that reduces our revenue budget by $333,000 based on, based on looking back 12 months. Okay, 333,500 if you want to be exact.
But when we dropped it from 5 to 2 on the levy, originally, a few minutes ago, we were talking about changing the levy
From $2.25
to $2.20.
to $2.20,
Right.
yes. Uh-huh.
So what was that difference?
before we eliminated it.
Okay, that was 3,515,000 even. Based on a bill, 100% bill rate of 3.7 million and a collection rate of 95%. Got us to 3.5 million collection rate.
So it was about a difference going from 225 to 220 with leaving the vehicle tax. The vehicle
It's
thing,
only
it was about 150K.
That's all.
So we've added 150K back in and then stripped out 333,000 of revenue. So that's why the number, not 140K, jumped up from what you started the briefing with, which was right around 700K.
Everybody on the same page now?
Are we trying to get back to historical 3.1 or?
I don't know that, it'd be good if we could, but that may happen through his process over time versus something we do on the levy. Where my head is right now is just, the revenue versus the expenses. The last presentation, we come down from 2.4 million or something to 940K. We've eliminated the 333 bill revenue. So, which I'm okay with from a bookkeeping standpoint. We gotta make a decision, I guess, if that's what we're gonna do, so they can do their stuff. But from a county administrator staff standpoint, given where we are in the process here, first of April, we've got to have something done by June. We've got several more sessions. Is it viable if we can make up $940K in adjustments between now and then with the other stuff we've got to take into account? Because right now, we got to make it, whether it's 225 or 220 or whatever, I'm in favor of getting rid of the vehicle tax thing because it just seems, it's just kind of out there hanging out. But we've got to make up that 330 if we keep our numbers kind of where they were when we started.
The reason I wanted to look at what happens if we don't change any of our rate and we just get rid of the vehicle tax. Then we're taking $333,000. That's why I asked for that.
Yeah.
If we just monkey with one thing, I think the citizens would be happy not to have yet another fee. We do away with that, and then we leave the rate at 2.25, because I think they're going to continue to go down, which could, next year, we could be looking at changing it to 230 to be able to generate the same amount of revenue.
I'm with you. It just takes me longer to get there, as you told me last week.
I'll be back for it.
So if I'm clear, where we were looking a few minutes ago, changing it to 220. If we go the way Mr. Ivey's suggesting, there's roughly $83,000 difference.
No, there's $333,000 difference.
Well, I'm based on the 225.
If you go to 220 and eliminate the vehicle tax fee, now you're at 1.2.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you stay at 225, like earlier we were going to go to 220.
Right.
So when we put it back at 225 and did away with the fee, we were a difference of 150K. Is that
300.
well 300? It was three.
If you take away
When you go from 225 to 220, it's about $150,000 difference. I think that's the question you're asking.
Right. So if we keep the rate at 225 and we do away with the fee, we're going to have to adjust. It's basically a $183,000 difference in what we were looking at a few minutes ago at 220.
336, because we already had the 225 in.
Let's do this a different way, because I think everybody's on a different page, all right? I'm gonna put my kindergarten hat on. We're gonna look at Excel. Oh, no. Okay, we're gonna go to Google Chrome.
Can I say a couple things while you're?
Please do. Please feel the.
One thing on if you eliminate the license fee, the way that when it comes out on the tax tickets, there's two lines. The first line is your car, second line's license fee. And the first line, 2014 F-150, that. Second line will say the same thing, 2014 F-150, then BFL, or BLF, and $25. A lot of people will see that and they think they've got two F-150s or something. They won't read out here and see it's the vehicle license fee. So that's always been a little confusing for people. So that would help in regards to that. Like you said, if you get rid of, make it a little easier and just deal with one thing instead of multiple ones. Okay. Another thing, if and some of you folks that know more about this, but if we were talking about changing the levy to a different something, then you'd have to be talking about, I think, advertising, public hearings, and that scenario.
Well, that's in an increase, right?
No, it's any change
Is it a percentage of a change or any change?
of your tax rate.
But we do that anyway. We do a public hearing.
Larry, are you talking about if you change the levy on personal property tax?
Yeah, for this year.
Right.
Like now. I mean, that 225 is set. If you started wanting to change to
Okay, so we set 225
Nice.
back in June
Right.
for this year. So, and they're paying this year in June, the personal property tax.
That's why I don't really want to mess with that.
Right,
225.
right. So I see what you're saying. So then what would, because if we mess with that, then we got to do a public hearing because that's a change of the levy for this current year, this current fiscal year.
Right, right.
That's what you're saying.
And then you'd probably have to be talking about, postponing the due date.
Right.
Stuff.
We're talking about for next year.
Yeah,
I think-
I mean, I've been talking about,
Where I think most of us were was we're talking, because this is next year's budget, we were looking at next year's things. But if we're, for what you gotta do, but if we eliminate a
That's why I'm
fee,
on
that's not the same because it's not considered
okay,
a
let
levy.
me ask you this. Okay. Lisa said we was on different pages, I want to agree now. So our conversations here is about next year. Correct. Are we not also talking about this year on the bills that's going out?
Well,
Because
I
that
thought
was
we
the
made that
initial-
decision already last year.
Well, I thought we started this meeting this time saying we didn't want to go through what last year was.
Yeah, we're
I mean, I think maybe we're talking about both.
talking about the 2024 budget season, we're trying to get the 2024 budget season to look as close to 2022 as we can.
So, and I, make sure I get clear too. The tax bills that's going out May 1st, then June 5th. That rate is $225.
That has a license fee.
And that has a license fee, and that was on
It has a
last year.
license fee on it.
But that's for last year's
This year.
budget for this year.
This-
So
Right
we're in
next year.
execution right now. What,
So
think
when we're talking about doing away with the license fee, we're talking about next year?
yes.
We're talking about, we're not talking about the June 5th
Correct.
bills this year.
No,
That's
I don't think
still
we
in
can.
this, that's still in last
We've
year's
already-
budget, isn't it?
Yeah, we've already done that.
Yeah, we can't change it in the current year we're in because that was budgeted into what we are
So
spending.
the end result for you two is that you're clear to leave and send the tax bills out.
Except those valuations have gone up for the current
That's it.
bill, and they need to be adjusted. The only way possible probably is through a rebate like they did last year, or a 20% off, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
I
talking about
guess
two
I-
different things, the budget for next year plus what we're gonna do for this
Okay.
year.
And I
Because
guess I
valuations change.
was sort of thinking that maybe doing away with the license fee for this year was compensating
For the difference.
for the values coming down some, but not by all.
Does it require any public hearing for us to just do away with the vehicle
License fee.
license fee?
I think that's what y'all were looking at.
For
was
this
doing
current
away-
fiscal year?
Yeah, doing it for this current fiscal year. I mean, that's the vibe I was getting.
That was the
Right.
vibe I was getting.
Yeah.
Is that a change of more than 1%?
Oh, no, we can't do that.
If you do that, we gotta advertise that too.
That'll have to be advertised, that's a change more than 1%.
Yeah.
For sure.
More than 1% of the budget.
You could do it and what's ahead, and then people would just know that help is on the way.
This year, the only advantage they get is it has come down 12% over average.
Rather than, yeah,
But they're still gonna pay
a little higher than what they were.
25, they're still gonna pay 25.
So how can we help them with that? What wiggle room do we have in the current year?
I am not prepared to talk about that.
Okay,
Unless you
Yeah, I thought we were doing 2024, but I guess
You're talking about wanting to change the numbers, right? Sorry. We're talking about wanting to change the numbers. We're in April. So we're in a year of execution. So I might change that number that we've been budgeted for throughout this year right now.
Well, I think in fairness to those guys,
Yeah.
when we first started the conversation, because we were talking about, they gotta send the bills out next week.
Yeah.
That puts you into this year. But for me, I was thinking next year.
I was thinking
I've been
22.
thinking next year this whole time.
So,
I'm not thinking 23 at all.
I was in 24.
yeah, so we were at 24, but the tax bills are going out for 23 next week for a June revenue intake.
And they need their March
Last
orders.
year. Right.
We need to get it to them today, so Pete doesn't.
And the question on the table is, there's gonna be a little bit more, is there not more anticipated revenue from the cars than what we were anticipating? Or not,
Or what budget are we talking
current year,
about? 23?
what they're talking about, yes.
Yes.
So there's more anticipated. More than what we anticipated.
No, let me go back.
Because here's what happened last
Okay,
year.
here we go. Here's the 95% of the billable rate for 23. This is, that was the billable rate and the collection rate for 23.
And we expect in June,
That was reduced already by 28.5% last fall.
correct. So we've already done a budget adjustment
For this
last
year's
fall
budget.
for this year. So then
So this
there
is
is,
gonna come way under, this budget line is gonna be way under.
because we already reduced it by 28%. So we're done with this year, I think is what I'm hearing, which is good, in my opinion. But FY 24 is where we are now. So it sounds to me like they got what they need, and we need to focus on 24.
Is everybody on the same page now?
Almost. So if the rates have come down, what we were looking at on the current budget year, if the rates have come down a little bit, but not all the way, what were we basing it on when we did the budget last year for this year?
The last year's current budget, the 22 values, not the 23 values.
Was that the 22 values for the,
We didn't change the levy last year. We kept the levy the same.
right?
And there may have been some confusion because when we asked to do the 28% refund, that was on the previous year's budget.
Yes.
If you took 28% out of that for 182, you're below, right at $3 million. So
This year, they're gonna get their property tax, personal property tax bills, and they're gonna be higher than they were in 22, but they're gonna be lower than they were in 23.
Yeah.
21, yeah.
Remember personal property tax is always a year behind, right? Almost.
You said.
I don't know what you're talking
This
about.
fiscal year.
We're gonna be sending out 2023 bills here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
It doesn't seem like we have the time or the ability to change anything for this year. I mean, if you gotta send them out next week, there's no way we can.
I'm comfortable with moving forward with the plan that we have for this current year, and then let's eliminate that vehicle tax for next year and see where we go. What they need to do needs to get done. Then what we can now do for the next couple months is figure out how we're gonna close that $940,000 gap with the vehicle fee gone.
Right now, we're set to collection rate for next June. When Larry does the values in January, if they continue to go down, we'll just have to eat if we can project right today.
But that's the reality of the fund balance.
There's so many variables to throw in there. And I mean, how many people there's becoming more newer vehicles available and they're buying.
So the fact
more,
Take in
no,
money.
vehicle. Well, but maybe we're getting more in than we had. You know, I mean, there's so many variables here.
I like the idea of getting rid of the vehicle fee. It's still not getting us back down to 3.1, which gives us a little buffer room here if they go down another 10%. I mean, you go from whatever we took 333,000 off of it. We're still $500,000 more than 22, which I don't think is that big of a stretch. I mean, I think in 2024, everybody will be happy not to pay a vehicle.
That's it anymore.
And I think overall, you're gonna see some that may have to pay more this year than they did last year after getting that credit calculated, but it got me less than 21. I think you may see it, like I was picking on you on your truck, you know. I think yours may be more, but you know, yours is maybe about $5 less than what you paid in 21. You know, so there's all kinds of possible ways to look. But and you're gonna see some that may pay less than they did last year. I mean, I think you're sort of gonna be around, but it's not that huge overall. Well, mine's $400 more than it was. They hit a lot, especially on those big pickups and stuff.
So, are we good? The rate on the send out thing?
And just make sure, I mean, your 2023 bills that's going out here for too long. The rate is $225 and the vehicle license fee is still on.
That was.
All the vehicles is supposed to be.
Well, percent less than it was the previous year as far as the valuation, not the 28% that we adjusted. So instead of the 28% adjustment, we'll have, just because the valuation changed, 12% adjustment.
And to clarify my statement, when we're talking a fiscal year, the bills are a year behind because I'm thinking July.
I'm calendar year now. Your fiscal.
Fiscal year, your calendar.
The workshop or work session that we're doing today is to determine what it's going to be in 2024. Does there need to be action today on?
No, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be final. We can have a consensus, at least to give us something to work with to see where, you know, the balancing that we need to do. I mean, you've given us more work to do, so. But no, a final.
Well, it's a work session, I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, other than their presentation, is there any more on the budget that y'all want to work on with us while we're here?
unless you want to take a look at expenditures, not necessarily. This,
Anybody got appetite for that?
I do, I got to go ahead and then.
I was gonna say, can I just ask what you have down on real estate?
I do, sure.
Since this is on still.
And, you know, you and I had spoken, you said you thought it was gonna be about the same as last
Yeah.
year. And I have it almost 9.8.
Can you cut into that deficit, Mr. Bo?
Are there any
Nine.
adjustments? 9.787. It's about the same, okay.
I have
So,
9,75804.
so under real
But we
estate,
were in the right same thing.
so under real estate, if I'm reading the bold real estate tax total, what we expect is 10.382, right?
Yes, that's real estate, current delinquents, penalties, and interests all added together.
And collecting about 9.7.
Right, but all the other categories, the subcategories show either zero or non-applicable for change, but yet we ended up with a 1.9% increase. How does that work?
Bear with me.
Go up, go
Right
up.
here, there you
Here,
go. 147, real property interest. goes right
these two,
here, right here. You get 62. Penalties, penalties, right here, interest.
see it?
So,
You're delinquent.
The penalties and interest must have been listed separately or in a different location last year,
okay,
but I'll
so
put them back where they need to
a
be.
newness.
A newness,
Okay.
a newness,
All right, I got it.
yes. Thank you. Mr. Ball asked me about
What do you have on trash?
the trash. Okay, these are contracts. This is the actual trash fee. And I have it at 1.4.
1.4.
Why do you think it'll go down?
This is based on collections.
So it's purely a percentage.
Right, Mr. Hall?
It's just the last 12 months, ending end of March. Last 12 months, that's what we collect.
What's the percent? What's your percent paid?
I don't know that.
Because starting
Up
out,
in the nineties though, I mean, or are we?
Well, the only thing I usually see is real estate in total, which include that.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
up 90s as far as pulling out the trash fees. I haven't seen
Yeah, all right.
the number on that. I might could get that. I'll look at that tomorrow.
Do you have that, Larry?
Find it.
That'd be fine.
the book on that's like 1.6.
Is it?
That one may be less than that 95% collection rate, you think?
It could be.
It's 87, 88.
88.
88%.
So in the trash fees, while we're on the trash fees, are you able to show us where the incentives are? Like for tourism's given an incentive for people setting up whatever meets their qualifications. So they get a third reduction, as I understand it.
No, no, I don't have that information. This is just straight collections. I'm just looking at their revenue account balances.
Right. Can you get that figure, what that is for last year?
I can ask, sure. So let me clarify your question. How much trash,
So the tourism incentive program.
right,
There's a reduction in the trash fee.
right.
What did that cost us last year as far as collections?
And you probably have that. We can
Okay.
get that. Just don't have it right now.
I think that's what, a third reduction?
But it's probably not that great of a number, I would think, because I'm not sure how many people applied for it.
Okay.
But that number would be nice.
I'll put that on my list. Do you want that for the next meeting or just email to each of you?
I would like it for the next meeting, and while you're in that realm, there's other incentives in there in the tourism program, as far as waiving fees and things like that. It'd be good to see those figures.
What incentive program? In this tourism?
The tourism incentive program, if you go on
Just the
to,
whole thing?
yeah, well, I had a breakdown of each, like trash, permitting fees that are waived. What's that costing us? Is the question.
Anything else? I think so. Let's try to get you guys got.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Larry.
Right, we have a regular board meeting, 13th, and then the 18th, budget work session with school, 3 p.m. right? Nothing changed about that. So that's, only other budget work session we have this month is the only 18th. All right.
Just a question with the school, what is it, is there something we need to work out, or are they just telling us what? I mean, we already kind of know what our above RLE funding things will be, what it will put to the CIP, what is it, what's the goal of that meeting?
To nail down what goes into the CIP, to nail that down. I think I have a pretty good idea, but I want to make sure that I'm following it correctly. I want to know the number.
783.
That's a different number than I saw this morning.
Yeah, it's different than what I have plugged in.
What do you have?
I have
600.
That was for the football field.
That's probably what I was thinking.
Yeah, 783 for the capital improvement and
76, I believe.
yeah, something like that for the above RLE fund.
37, I think it was right at 375.
375, something like that.
But bring your bucks into $4 million.
Well, it's $1 million in total.
375, but MRE and then 700.
That's current.
Yep.
And then the 783
Projected for
2026.
still this year,
It's
still.
$1 million, it's
$1 million.
$1 million line hit for the budget, but it's setting us up for future.
So I got another question, not only with the school, but as far as, so for the EDA, what do we commit to the EDA? Is it 2 cents, 2% of the levy each year that we're putting into that?
Can you let me catch up?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm just not
Are we-
my best today.
Hang on one second. Are we still on? We just had a general conversation.
So we're still on, we haven't adjourned yet.
Okay.
Because I'm putting it in the wrong place. Okay. Quit fussing with me. 373. And then above, I'm gonna double check above ROE. 375.
That'll increase your
Deficit.
name.
But those are the right numbers.
I believe so.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for your patience with me.
You're fine. Thanks for your patience.
Now, you were asking about the EDA?
Yes.
Okay.
So traditionally, we commit a certain amount to the EDA.
No, not traditionally.
No. We did that one time?
Yes. Historically, and traditionally, we have tried to keep that number at around $200,000. That was our target historically, for as long as I've been here. We tried to do that. However, with the installation of the new board, they wanted to have a say in what they were given to invest in the county. So they requested 1% last year, and that's where the 1% came from. So, and that is what,
You say new board, the new EDA
the
board.
new EDA board, yes, sir. Does that answer your question?
So they had 200,000, they got another 1%.
A total of 1% of the operating budget.
Okay. Total of 1% of the operating budget.
Which was about 290,000 or something
Last
last year.
And the plan is right now is to continue that 1%.
Well, I think there's a decision space there for the board to make. So I think it's got a pretty healthy fund right now. And
Yeah.
so, if the board chooses to see what the final number is, the board says, hey, we want to continue to invest, we certainly look at the number. I think they have close to $1 million there now. So, whether we want to continue to add to that and let them, create more decision space for them, or we use that money for something else.
Is it in the budget right now?
It is in the budget right now, yes.
As 1%.
It's 290, yes.
Well, here's the issue with that is, because I realize the EDA is appointed by members of this board. And the only control we have over the EDA is what we give them and who we appoint. So I think, and I've talked with several other counties that have EDAs, and it's my understanding it's pretty common that if the EDA has a plan or project that they're wanting to do, they would come to the board and ask for the funding for that, rather than give them $290,000 to make a decision on 1% of the tax revenue. I think it's something you look at.
Anybody else, anything? Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Chair also aye. Oh,
Dude, I play too. I was this close to
One of
having a
those-
beer.
One of those things that.
Whoa, Mr. Sagan.
Nothing went right. I forgot that. Nothing went right.
I'll make a time.
I was standing on my brother's porch, I was picking up something that he got for my mom. I said, hey, what are you doing, having a beer? You wanna have a beer? And he looked over.